The reason why we make ages in our body is due to a combination of insulin resistance that drives inflammation, coupled with excess intakes of simple carbohydrates, and basically it's a nasty mixture. When it's like adding kerosene to a fire, bad things happen.
Dr. Sears, we're going to talk about something a little bit more complex today. Not that we don't always talk about complex matters, but we're going to talk about advanced glycated end products, also called AGEs, and just their role in chronic disease. So first off, can you tell everybody what exactly AGEs or advanced glycated end products are?
They are basically altered proteins, which have basically been fused with carbohydrates binding to them. Now, why is that a bad thing? Because they can interact with receptors on your cell that cause inflammation. And it's inflammation, not the AGEs themselves, but it's the inflammation caused by them that accelerates the aging process. I first talked about this in my book, The Anti-Aging Zone, published 25 years ago. But now it's more kind of a germane talk that you hear on TikTok. So that's why we're using this opportunity to go a little more detail to understand what these AGEs are, and more importantly, what you can do to lower the levels in your body.
And so, Dr. Sears, what are the primary sources of AGEs?
Well, the primary sources are your diet. But there are two sources. It's before the food gets in your mouth and after the food gets in your mouth. Now, before the food gets in your mouth, a source of AGEs is processed foods. And you say, I knew it. And the reason why, because when you make processed foods that contain some protein and you add some simple carbohydrates like glucose or fructose and dry heat, then basically you accelerate the formation of these AGEs. You say, oh my God, I'm going to die. No, you're not going to die. One, you should eat less processed foods, but if you do eat processed foods, as most Americans do, only about 10 or 30% of these externally produced AGEs actually get in the body. It's really the same carbohydrates and protein that get in your body. They are now exposed to oxidative stress that can accelerate the formation of these AGEs. So the vast number of AGEs are coming from internal generation by our body as opposed to external dietary intakes.
So essentially, Dr. Sears, excess inflammation caused by insulin resistance is going to make these age products, so to speak, worse.
They will, and there's many age products you can actually measure in the blood. However, there's one that stands out, which is the best marker for determining how these AGEs will basically affect disease progression in the future. Not surprisingly, this is called glycosylated hemoglobin. The primary marker used in medicine to determine whether or not you have diabetes. And all the AGEs we can measure in the bloodstream, both from external sources or internally generated, this is the marker that has the greatest relation toward developing chronic disease, and especially chronic diseases associated with insulin resistance. These would include diabetes, heart disease, kidney disease, liver disease, and Alzheimer's. So if you want to slow down aging, you really want to focus on reducing the levels of glycosylated hemoglobin in your blood.
And just for people who aren't really sure what glycosylated hemoglobin is, this is also hemoglobin A1C or HbA1c would be what you'd be looking for on your blood work to determine what this value would be.
That's correct.
So, Dr. Sears, so how can you reduce them?
Here's the quick answer. Your diet. They're
Makes
caused
sense.
by the diet. They can be reduced by the diet. I'll say, okay, give me some more information. Okay, then I'll say, by following metabolic engineering. And next question is, say, what's that? So let me explain. It's not a nutrient. It's not a drug. It's not a supplement. It's a system. It's a system that basically, when you put all the pieces together, they basically work in concert to lower the levels of these AGEs, and particularly glycosylated hemoglobin, in your body. So what is that system? Step one, you've got to reduce calories. I say, but I'll always be hungry. So let me make that more clear. You have to reduce calories without hunger. Now, the number of options are much less. And the primary option you can do that is by basically following the zone diet. The zone diet was not only developed, it was patented to reduce inflammation, and patented to reduce insulin resistance. So the zone diet is your primary format. Now, why does it work? Because it activates the master regulator of metabolism in each of your 30 trillion cells. That regulator is known as AMPK. If you can activate AMPK, then basically you start to do a number of very powerful and positive aspects on your metabolism. One, you reduce inflammation. But two, you basically now begin to accelerate the generation of antioxidative enzymes, especially those which are designed to destroy these aged products. And the third, basically you reduce oxidative stress, another driver of basically age formation. Now, can you do more? Of course.
Always.
You can add now basically additional supplements that are indirect activators of AMPK. These would be omega-3 fatty acids and polyphenols. Not surprisingly, these also both have anti-inflammatory properties. So bottom line, the reason why we make H's in our diet or in our body is due to a combination of insulin or insulin resistance that drives inflammation, coupled with excess intakes of simple carbohydrates. And basically, it's a nasty mixture. It's like adding kerosene to a fire. Bad things happen.
So, Dr. Sears, if someone has their hemoglobin A1C level in front of them, what is the range or the most desirable range that people should be looking to keep this in to know that they have really good control of these advanced glycated end products?
Well, let's basically look at some of the medical accepted terms. If your glycosylated hemoglobin is greater than 6.5%, you're a diabetic.
Right.
Now, between 5.7 and 6.4, you're in trouble. You're called pre-diabetic. Mm-hmm. Most Americans are in that range. They say, okay, if you're under 5.6, yeah, you're okay. Well, I don't think so. I think where you want to be is between 4.9 and 5.1%. Now, it takes a little work to get there, but if you get there, it means your levels of ages, all types in the body, are being decreased. And what does that mean? You're going to live longer. You're going to live better.
And that's really a sweet spot too, the 4.9 to 5.1, because you can also go too low on the HbA1c. So you really want to keep it within that zone. Exactly.
People say, well, I'm wearing my glucose monitor on my arm. Saying that tells you nothing. It doesn't really tell you basically how dangerous your blood is, or basically are you getting toward a better health. So that's why there's a blood test. It's a simple one. And it's why it's used routinely in your general testing to see how well you're doing. Now, to get down to that 4.9 to 5.1%, you're probably in the top 1% of Americans. Hey, but it's that 1% of Americans who are going to live longer and live better.
All right, Dr. Sears, if people want to learn more about metabolic engineering, where should they go?
Well, come right to drsears.com. Metabolism is complex. Our job here at drsears.com is try to basically explain this complexity and show you what you can do by the diet to make that complexity work in your favor as opposed to basically work against you.